Even with Leslie Smith, I mean, Leslie's not got the...
How tough is Leslie
She's
Smith?
so tough. She's not got the cleanest of games, but she's got the toughness and the defense to stay in there with Cyborg. Whereas at this point, if Leah can't get Cyborg to the floor, which is always going to be a tough thing to do, she can't deal with that aggression of striking. Like, she needs to level that up before she faces someone.
I thought Cyborg was unbelievable.
She's just consistent, isn't she?
She's got a beautifully brutal game, isn't she? She one thing that I think you got me looking at, but she cuts people off better than 90% of all rosters in all promotions. She never seems to be that far away from her opponent. She's just on the edge of range. If your opponent moves, she laterally moves. She just cuts you off the whole time. She's doing like semicircles around you.
Yeah.
And man, I thought she was really, really good. And she's got a jab on her. Something we're going to talk about later in it. But that it seems more prevalent that the people at the top, Cyborg, Usman, who we talked about earlier as well with Font. You know, they've just got this piston-like jab, and there's no read on it. It's straight from the chin. It's straight back to the chin. I thought she was,
and she forces it down your neck as well. Cyborg.
Yeah.
She complements it with that heavy front foot.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been watching a lot of Rod Tanks. I'm working on that special, that Rod Tank special at the moment, and he's very similar to Cyborg. A bit more Muay Thai. He doesn't stand quite as heavy on his lead leg, but still aggressive and works to that consistent timing. Like it's almost like he's got a Thai boxing metronome in his head that's on like a 2-second count, and all of his fights is like a rhythm where I'll go, you go, I'll go, you go, and if his opponent can match his pace, you know, they get about 45 strikes apiece per round.
Yeah.
But if his opponent can't match his pace, if his opponent drops 20 strikes, Rodtang picks those 20 up.
Yeah, still 90 strikes. Still 90 strikes.
Still 90 strikes.
Yeah, I'll just have those 20.
That's it. He just takes it. He just eats the canvas away and takes it off him. And Cyborg and they also both do something very similar as well, which I see it often, even at the top level. People kicking an opponent in the direction that they're already moving.
Right.
It just doesn't work. Like if I'm standing in an orthodox stance and I've got someone moving towards my left and I kick them with my right foot, I'm immediately wasting energy because I'm chasing them with the kick. Unless you specifically step across and set it up, there's a way of doing it. But a lot of people, they kick their opponent in the direction they're already moving. Which, you know, even if you land, it's not going to land as hard as if you can cut them off and force them to step onto it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that Cyborg does. And Rodtang steps across, forces you to move in the direction that the kick's coming.
She almost had like, not quite, but she almost had like distinctive patterns per round. So she started off jabs, then she'd like layer in a jab, lay back right hand over the top as a counter. Then she started laying her kicks in, and then late on she started putting a couple of takedowns in. And I was like, man, this is like a really calculated performance. She's basically picked her apart and not really took anything back.
Yeah.
It was fair. Do you think she you know, you talk about Glover Teixeira having like the basics mold in the men's division. You think Cyborg she's pretty much got those fundamental game down. If you took that off and gave it to someone else, they'd be set. Not quite.
I don't know if she's got the full game. Certainly her striking game is nicely well rounded.
Yeah.
But I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, she's got good clinch work. She's got good takedown defense as well. But again, I feel like a lot of it is down to physical attributes. The reason that she gets out of those grappling positions.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
dominating top game.
Well, the unfortunate thing is it's always lingering in the back of my mind, in the back of everybody's mind when they're watching Cyborg, if they're aware of the reality of the situation. You know, like at some point in her competitive past, she's used performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Well, she's got the benefit from them. You can see how much physically stronger she is than her opponents.
I mean, there's one of the problems with PEDs is the lingering effect of it, in that you could not be on it, but there is an effect that's had. There's plenty of papers that will suggest there's effects that can be had long after you've stopped taking it. You know, and you could even say once you'd got your body to a certain strength and power level, it now recognises that as a place it can be. You're off the gear, but you've been there. Your capacity is increased. Do you know what I mean? Like it's I suppose a bit like the 4-minute mile. You know, once you broke it, now everyone can break it. Once your body's been up there and recognises, you know, how to recruit the muscle fibers at that level, it can now do it. And you know, it could be years since you used gear.
Yeah. So that it was explained to me once, like how like some guys they would do like have 2 cycles that would push up that capability cap of their muscles. And that's, I mean, that, you can't train up to exactly that same capacity, I'm sure, but you could probably get much closer to it
than if you'd never done it.
Never done it.
Yeah, you'd never open that door in the first place. You'd never get there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's a much wider conversation, but that's the problem with this transgender like discussion that's going on about transgender people being in mixed sport. Like the hormonal effects have happened. It's happened. You can dress it up as much as you want, but it's happened.
Yeah.
And it's not, in my opinion, it is not safe to be doing that. And I know there might be some melts going on around that, but it's not safe to be doing that.
No.
Once there's a bone density that is different because of the presence of testosterone during your adolescence, that's just the way it is.
It's Fallon Fox, isn't it?
Yeah,
went through a sex change and now competes in the female divisions. I think Ashley Evans Smith got a win over her.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying. It's such a grey area that seems to be expanding by the day at the moment.
I might drop it in the comments, but there's a very well put together article I was reading the other day about it from a guy who's been in sports science and research for years and years and years. Very succinct, not particularly biased one way or another, but just lays the facts out. It's quite interesting. And you know what, other sports I'm not so bothered about. Because you know what, if you beat me in football, you beat me in football. Like I'm not going to crack draw at the end of it. But you can't mess around in fight sports.
That's the thing. It's when it's the force exertion is directed at another human being is when it gets dangerous. Yeah. But like, this is why Durandamy never defended her belt against Cyborg, wasn't it? It was because of that that past that Cyborg's got. Even though what's unfortunate is I think that would be probably one of the most competitive fights.
Yeah.
And I think Durandamy would have watched Amanda Nunes beat Cyborg and thought,
I could do that.
I could have probably done that. Like I think especially Durandamy back in her Thai boxing days, she was fighting anybody.
Yeah.
Like there's a video of her knocking out a dude. Yeah. Like she like beat him up, just she was all over him. And I think that her like this. See, that's where for me the playing field's evened a little bit. Is because I think that the physicality of Cyborg is one of the things that complements her style. And because Durandamy doesn't have that same kind of physicality, but she's got an advanced striking game, I think that's where she can make up the deficit in the physical strength. And I do think it would be a really competitive fight. Like if I was Durandamy...
So she refuses to make that fight.
Relinquish the belt. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair enough, but at the same time, I also think she's probably one of the most competitive opponents for Cyborg.
Yeah,
like Durandamy as a Thai boxer was just, she was scary to watch. I remember being on a card with her at Too Hot to Handle, and she came out in like an orange prison jumpsuit. All the corner team were dressed as inmates as well, and she was fighting this French girl. She was backed up in a corner, bam, bam, bam. Stepped out of range, bam, 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 then stepped in and clinched her and just kneed her face flat. Yeah. It was fucking brutal.
What promotion was that?
Too Hot to Handle.
Oh, what a name.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, it was a bit as well. There was some shifty people in the crowd. But yeah, she's
Dutch, right? From Holland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a police officer as well.